Greetings, Saber fans. This video is going to be about edit mode and web USB interface for your Proffie lightsabers that are programmed on OS 6. So right now I want to show you some things we can do on edit mode in OS 6 on this saber. This video is going to work for all my 2-button sabers that are programmed on OS 6 with edit mode with 2 buttons. So with the 2-button sabers, to get into edit mode on the lightsaber, you press both buttons at the same time.
Edit mode.
And you get a cue that you're in edit mode. So once we're in edit mode, you're going to scroll through all the options by turning the hilt.
Edit style.
So we can edit the style, and on this one, I know that I have several styles. I have Rotoscope Original Trilogy, Rotoscope Prequels, and Rotoscope Sequels. And also hyper responsive Rotoscope Original Trilogy. So I'm going to select Edit Styles by hitting Power.
Select Blade 1.
And I'm only going to change it on Blade 1.
Select Option.
0 is the...
Select Style. Style 0. Option 0.
Style 0, Option 0 is Rotoscope Original Trilogy.
Style 1. Option 0.
That's Fireblade Option Original Trilogy.
Style 2. Option 0. Style 3. Style 4. Style 5.
Huh.
Style 6.
These are all the styles
Style 7.
I have programmed on the
Style
lightsaber.
0. Option 0.
So Style 0, Option 0 is what I programmed.
Save. Style menu.
So that
Edit
can
style settings.
run through all the styles.
Select style. Edit style settings.
Now I'm going to edit style settings, pressing Power.
Select option. Style options.
Style options.
Option 0.
This is options.
Option
That's option 1. This is going to be the Rotoscope single color prequels.
1. Option 2.
This is Rotoscope single color sequels.
Option 3.
Hyper responsive Rotoscope original trilogy.
Option 4.
Sorry, this is the hyper responsive.
Option 5. Option 4. Option 3. Option 2. Option 1. Option 0.
Option 0 is what I programmed, so I'm going to select that.
Save. Select option. Cancel. Style menu.
So, by the way,
Select style. Cancel. Select blade. Cancel. Main menu.
alright, so we're back in the main menu. And I didn't say this, but your Run Home to Mama button is going to be auxiliary to back out of whatever you're in. Power is select. Now let's go to color changing.
Edit style. Edit color.
I want to edit color. I'm going to hit my power button for edit color.
Select blade 1.
Now you can see blade 1 is flashing. Whichever blade you're in is going to flash. So I'm going to only change it on main blade 1 here.
Color menu. Color options.
Color options.
Select effect. Base color.
Base color is what I want to change.
Select option. Color list.
I want to do color list. And here we go.
Red. Orange red. Dark orange. Orange. Gold. Yellow. Green yellow. Green. Aquamarine. Cyan. Deep sky blue. Dodger blue. Blue. Ice blue. Indigo. Purple. Deep purple. Magenta. Deep pink. Silver. Glacier. Ice white. Light cyan. Moccasin. Lemon chiffon. Navajo white. White. Red.
I'm going to select red by hitting power. And that
Save.
goes back to the
Color
brain style.
options.
So I'm going to X out of that.
Adjust light
Actually,
level.
hang on a second.
Adjust light level.
I want to show you all something in color change. So as we're changing the main blade color, I want you to keep an eye out on these.
Color list. Red, orange, red, dark orange.
Notice that these aren't changing color.
Orange, gold, yellow, green,
Because we're
yellow,
only changing blade
green,
1.
aquamarine, cyan, deep sky blue, dodger blue, blue, ice blue, indigo, purple, deep purple, magenta, deep pink, silver, glacier, ice white, light cyan, moccasin, lemon chiffon, Navajo white, white, red. Save, color options.
I'm going to X out of that.
Cancel, select effect. Cancel, color menu. Cancel, select blade. Cancel, main menu.
So now we're back in the main menu, and I'm going to show you one more thing. This one has a standard
Edit
ignition
font.
where it just goes out, and it doesn't have anything special on it.
Edit track. Edit settings. Copy preset. Delete preset. Edit style. Select blade. 1. Select option. Select style. Edit style settings. Select option. Style options. Ignition options.
Ignition options, power.
Option 0.
This is standard ignition.
Option 1.
There's spark tip.
Option
Standard
0.
ignition,
Option
spark
1.
tip. Option 2 should be gravity.
Option 2.
Option 3 is glitch on.
Option 3. Option 4. Option 3. Option 2. Option 1. Option 0. Save. Select option.
So I'm going to exit out of that.
Cancel. Style menu. Cancel. Select blade. Cancel menu.
Alright, so now we're out of edit mode. Now I want to go back into edit mode for one last thing. I want to show you all how to copy a preset. All these edit mode functions are pretty easy, but we're going to show you how to copy a preset, and we're going to show you how to adjust the blade length, because I think those are the two most important things on edit mode. Basically, all this stuff is easier on the computer than it is in edit mode, but you can do some pretty cool stuff on edit mode. So we're going to go back into edit mode, and we're going to copy a preset.
Edit mode. Delete preset. Copy preset.
So I'm rotating the hilt till I get to what I want. Now I want to copy the preset, so I'm going to hit the power button.
Confirm.
Now to confirm, you have to rotate right
Accept.
and then hit the power button.
Main menu.
That's how easy it is to copy a preset. So now there's going to be two versions of Father. Now, in addition, I want to go back and let's adjust the pixel length on this.
Preset. Edit style. Edit color. Edit font. Edit track. Edit settings.
I'm going to edit settings.
Select option. Edit volume. Edit control settings. Edit clash threshold. Edit blade length.
Edit blade length. Power to select.
Select blade. 1.
I want to select blade length on blade 1, which is our main blade.
140. 139. 138. 137. 136. 135.
This one has 127, by the way. I just made it 140 so it's adjustable.
132. 130. 130. 129. 128. 127.
So I'm hoping you guys can see that white pixel.
126.
Now I'm going to adjust this till it comes down a little bit.
125. 124. 123. 122. 121. 120. 119.
Now, you can see that the saber blade is not illuminated all the way, but there's a white tip here that shows you your last LED that's illuminated at 123 pixels. So I'm going to dial this back to 127.
120, 121, 122, 123, 124, 125, 126, 127, 128.
See, I lost my white. I'm going to dial back to 127.
127.
That shows you that you have your longest pixel illuminated with that white.
126, 127. Save. Settings menu. Edit
Now I'm going to
brightness.
exit out of all
Edit
this.
volume. Cancel menu.
Now, I'm going to go into battle mode and check my melt. And the melt is working. I'm going to check my tip drag. And that's working. And let's check our lockup, which you can also see in the table, which is awesome. So those are the things that I wanted to show you in edit mode. Everything else, in my opinion, is just easier to adjust on the computer. It's really important to have the effects that are programmed on the blade style, and so I have this piece of paper which basically shows my effects that are programmed on my main blade style, and that's how I know what all the options are. If you don't know what those options are, you don't know what you're adjusting through. So it's important to read that blade style, and it's important that your, whoever your installer is puts the config on your SD card so you can read the blade styles, and that's what I do, and it works. And this saber is, really awesome. Another thing I want to show you also, we were in Father font and we copied a preset. So what's going to happen is I can advance to that preset and you will hear Father again. So now we have two fathers. And then after that should be Vader.
Lord Vader. Suspect. Hello there.
This is my battery blade. It's my last preset. And then I'm going to advance. You're going to hear Father. I'm going to advance again. You're going to hear Father again. That's the copied preset. Now, the cool thing about that copied preset is then you can ignite that preset in edit mode. Here we go, edit mode.
Edit mode.
And I'm going to change the font.
Edit style. Edit color. Edit font.
Power to select. Darth Maul.
Save. Main menu. Edit track.
I'm going to edit the track now. Rotating through all the tracks.
Save. Main menu. Exit.
So now I have Darth Maul. So that's how easy it is to change track. All you have to do to change fonts and track is put those tracks and fonts on your SD card. On my Sabers, all the tracks are going to be in the tracks folder, in the common folder, and when you add a new font, just make sure that you recognize its boot and font sounds so that you're going to be selecting it. So now this saber, if I select the track by pointing the saber up and playing the track, it's Darth Maul. It's that easy. Now, even though edit mode is pretty easy, it's even easier to, use the web USB interface, or aka the Proffie Workbench, or the Teensy Saber mode. It's gone by so many different names. We're going to do a lot of the stuff we just did here in edit mode, but we're going to do it on the ProffieOS Workbench, and you can see it's a lot easier on the Workbench. But the fact of the matter is edit mode's pretty cool. If you're on the fly and you need to adjust something, clash sensitivity or any of that, it's all adjustable in edit mode. Like if you just need to make a quick on the fly adjustment on your saber, there's no need to reprogram it in Arduino anymore. You just go into edit mode and change it when you're out in the field. If you're at home, you hop on the computer, you plug in with a you got to make sure you're plugging in with a data cord, and then boom, Bob's your auntie, you're in web USB on the computer like you're getting ready to see here, and you can make all these changes we can make in edit mode, but you can also do it on the computer. So stand by, we'll throw you on the computer. Okay, so what we're doing now is I've taken the SD card out of my Saber and I've put it in this SD card reader. You all know what these readers look like this. And I got my little micro SD in this reader, and I'm going to put this reader in my computer, and should hear the computer recognize well, you're not going to hear it because I got the sound muted, but the computer's going to recognize it. And then I'm going to go to Windows Share. Here is our SD card. Now, if you'll notice, there's no Darth Maul on there, none. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to where I have my font folders at, Proffie fonts, and I'm going to go find that Maul font we said we were going to add just for kicks and giggles. I will take this off before I ship the Saber to the customer. This is just showing how this works. Let's see here. I know there's a Maul font on here. Smooth Maul. And I'm going to basically copy all these sound files, and I'm going to come here to our SD card, which is plugged in. I'm going to add a new folder by right-clicking, New Folder, and we're going to call this new folder Maul. It's important that you call your folder something, that you're going to remember, and I'll show you why here in a second. Now we're going to paste all of our, Maul sounds into this folder called Maul. And there we have it. Now, I already have Duel of the Fates on this SD card, but basically how I set up my Sabers is my tracks folder is within the common folder. So if you needed to add a track, you would come here and you could add your Duel of the Fates here. And I call mine Fates, and there it is right there. And, we could play it, but you're not going to hear it. I don't think you're going to hear it. So again, my tracks folder is within my common folder on my SD card. My tracks folder is in the common folder. Here's the Maul sound font we just added, and it does have its config.ini right here, and it should have a smoothswing.ini as well. It does. And if it didn't, I have those in my common folder for fonts that are missing them. So that's another cool thing about ProffieOS6. So if you look at my config folder, my common folder, you'll see I have a config.ini, and if you scroll down all the way down here, you'll see I also have a smoothswing.ini. And that way, if any of my fonts are missing those, they're in my common folder. So that solves some more problems with OS 6 that were pretty common. So now my SD card is rewritten. I'm going to eject it by right-clicking on it, eject, safe to remove the hardware. So now I'm going to plug this modified SD card back into the Saber we've been working on. And I'm going to turn on the Saber. So you guys can still see the lightsaber up here in the top of the screen. So what we're going to do now is we're going to plug in this saber. So I've got my USB cord plugged into my computer, and I'm going to take our micro USB and I'm going to plug it into the saber, and hopefully it recognizes it. Let's get y'all back into what I wanted to show you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the ProffieOS Workbench. Now I've got my saber plugged into the USB. The saber's here cycling. Now I'm going to select USB connection, and now the ProffieOS Workbench is mating with my saber. So this is my saber in action. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go take the saber out of the screen because I don't want it blocking. So this is basically the proffieboard workbench, or web USB. This saber is enabled with web USB, and to me, even though edit mode is really cool that you can edit your lightsaber on the lightsaber, you can also edit your saber within the ProffieOS Workbench. As a matter of fact, when we come over here to these presets, you see it says Father, Vader, Vader. The second Vader is indeed the Vader that we've added, and we're going to get back to that in a second. But I wanted to show you that you have these two buttons over here. You have the pencil, and you also have the settings button. If I click on the settings button, there you can see we can adjust our clash threshold, our brightness, our blade length, which you saw me adjust in the video, our blade 2 length, blade 3 length, blade 4 length, and blade 5 length. You can see you can adjust all your gestures and stabs and force pushes and all that stuff. So there's a lot of adjustments you can make to your lightsaber right here on this settings key. But I want to go back to, I'm going to click that. Now we're back in the saber control workbench. I can actually ignite my saber with the controls here. So you can control your lightsaber when it's plugged in, but that's not really what's interesting here. So what I want to do is I want to go to edit. And right now we're editing our second Vader font. Now remember, we want to change this to Maul, and we've added Maul on our SD card. So I'm going to rename that to Maul. And then I'm going to come down here in font, we're going to change to Maul, which should show up here, and it does.
At last we will have our revenge.
It's just that easy to add a new font. And then for tracks, we're going to change that to Duel the Fates.
At last we will have
Every time you make a change, it basically states the what you're doing. Now, this is where you can change the styles and all the different colors that all the effects do to each blade. And so there's 5 blades, so you see you have all these options on all your blades. Let's go back to 3 is the one we want to be on, so you guys can see it. So I'm going to go to 3, and I'm going to go to off color, and we're going to go to green. I want it to be green.
At last we will have our
See that crystal chamber changed to green? So this shows you how you can affect it all. Now watch, I'm going to change it back to red. I just wanted to show you all it's infinitely adjustable here on the ProffieOS Workbench as well. I know I want this to be 0, and I want this to be 0. And then when I click out of there, if you watch, this crystal chamber will go back to red.
At last we will have our revenge.
Now that's when it's off. But the bottom line is you have infinite adjustments. You have off color, you have retraction color, then you have all these pre-on options, your lockup options, your class options, ignition color. You can change all that stuff. Ignition option, ignition time, all that stuff is adjustable. And your base color of your main blade when you ignite. So let's just, and actually I'm going to go change the main blade so you guys can see that. So I'm going to change the main blade to something that Darth Maul shouldn't be. Let's say blue, okay? I'm going to make this 0 so it's absolutely blue.
At last we will have our revenge.
Now let's go back out of this, and let's go ahead and ignite this, and the saber blade should ignite blue. And Darth Maul ain't supposed to be blue, y'all. So we're going to go back into edit, and we're going to change this back to red, because Darth Maul should be red. So we're going to go back to red, and make sure this is 0. So 255, that means the red dye is fully on, and then 0 for green and 0 for blue. That's pure red.
At last we will have our revenge.
Now let's ignite it again, and you see we're back to red. Now, when we're on this, we can control the saber.
You are nothing.
We can do lightning block. We can play any track we want. So I'm going to play Fates. Pretty awesome, right? I'm going to stop the track, which is down here on the bottom. And then I'm going to retract the saber. So it's just that easy to edit your lightsaber on this workbench. Again, you can edit the settings here, your clash threshold, brightness, gesture ignition, swing ignitions, swing on, speed, your thrust, all that stuff. All that is adjustable. Why isn't our blade length on there? Not sure why the blade length didn't show up that second time. Let's go back to our first preset. Go back out of that, and let's go to settings and see if blade length pops back up. I'm not sure why blade length isn't popping back up there after we've already adjusted it. That's odd. I'm not sure about that. I have to report that glitch, but you should see blade length up here too, and we're not seeing blade length. Not sure why. It was up there the first time we did it. Let's close out of this. Let's go back into it. It is a web-based app, and I will link the address for this app in the video when we're done. So let's go to Teensy Saber app. Let's connect via USB, and let's go to settings. There, now we got blade length again. So it's just a matter of reboot and turn back on, right? You saw that we could, change the font on the preset we copied, but another thing you can do with the workbench is you can also copy presets on the workbench. So to copy a preset on the workbench, you're going to go to this edit button, and you're going to scroll down here on the left, and this add button is copy preset. So let's say we want to copy let's see, my lightning.
Hello there.
You hit this plus button, and it says duplicate current preset, and you say OK. And now you see we have 2 of the lightning blades, one before battery level and one after battery level.
Hello there.
And then of course you can come here and you can edit the font on there. You can edit the name of this preset. We'll call it Lightning And you can see it changes the name. And then font, we can make it blue. Track, we'll change to OB anyway. I'm going to leave the styles the same on all that. And then, let me go to screen share, and we'll show you this new preset that we created here on the workbench. So you can copy presets on the workbench. The reason I like copying presets better in Fernando's edit mode is that, when we copied Vader, the preset that we copied fell right after Vader. And what I don't like about copying presets in ProffieOS Workbench is that it's always going to fall last. So it's going to fall as your last preset. Some of y'all may like that, some of y'all may not. I just want y'all to see how it actually works. I always like my battery level to be the last preset. So it basically serves as a marker that you're getting ready to go back to the beginning. But let's go to screen share here, stand by. To get, anytime you're on the ProffieOS Workbench, and I'm hoping you guys are going to be able to see all that. Let me go back to Streamlabs and make sure that's in view. Okay, you guys can see the saber and the blade. That's cool. So to get out of this edit mode when you're in this, you just click the pencil again. So if you're in, edit settings, there you can see our blade links and all that stuff that I showed you before. And you just click that and you're back in the saber control. So now I'm going to scroll down here and make sure we're in our lightning 2, and so there you go. I forget what track we put to it. I think we put Obi Annie. So we'll play Obi Annie. So it's pretty cool. So I'm going to go back to edit because I'm going to take this preset off because I don't want that on there. To delete a preset is just as easy. You scroll down and the preset that we created here, the lightning 2, is highlighted, and I'm just going to delete that preset. And it says you want to delete it? Yes. So now we're back to father, and I can get out of this edit mode. And now we're back at the saber controls, and I can ignite. So that's the ProffieOS Workbench. You can adjust the volume too, and we did turn the volume down. And I think I'm going to bring the volume to around 1500 or so. You can also see your battery voltage. So you can see the battery volts are at 3.71 volts. So, after all this work on making these 2 videos, we've run this battery down again. Battery lasts about an hour, more or less of use. This battery still has some useful voltage left in it, but you can see your battery volts. You can control the saber with your computer. You can actually edit your presets on the computer on ProffieOS Workbench. And you can edit the settings for your saber on ProffieOS Workbench. You can edit the volume, brightness, and you can edit your blade links and all the stuff that I've showed you before. You can see here it's kind of run on the ROM again, but I'm going to open my shortcut and see if we don't get the... So if you ever run into a glitch, just close the program and open it up and reconnect to your saber, and it should work just fine. Alright, so here's our app. We're going to connect via USB. And you definitely want to select proffieboard and then connect. And then here's the app loading up. Let's go to settings. And there you can see our blade links are back, clash threshold and all. So if something ever goes wrong with the program or you lose something, just reopen the program, and I will give you all the web address for this program. You can edit all your settings on the saber. You can also add presets and delete presets right here in the ProffieOS Workbench. You can change the preset's name. You can change the font. The only thing is you just have to load a font into your SD card, and you can, like this father font, we could change that to Vader.
Lord Vader.
And then that way, it's both those are running Vader, but I'm going to change that back to Father. You can change the preset name right here. You just highlight in that field and click, and you can change the name. You can change the track that's associated, you know, that's the design track, and then you can edit a bunch of blade stuff in these edit mode blades. So it's a pretty cool feature. To me, editing the saber is a lot easier on the ProffieOS Workbench than it is editing the stuff on the saber, because you know, you can get kind of lost in the menus. But the reason you get lost in the menus is because there's so many of these style options, ignition time, all that stuff. And if you ever want to know, you know, you can see on this first blade, which this is Father, and you can see style option 1, style option 0, ignition option 0. Well, if we go to our config file, which any person that installs Sabers should put your config file on your SD card, and the config file for this saber, just like all my sabers, is on the SD card that I wrote for this saber. And it's pretty cool. If you ever want to know what the options are, you just go to your first preset, and here's our blade 1, and you know, default 0 is rotoscope single color, and then you have rotoscope sequels, prequels, original trilogy, prequels, and sequels. You know, you have 155,520 unique combinations available with this blade style. You want to talk about ignition effects. So ignition effect options, default is 0, which is your standard ignition. 1 is a spark tip ignition. So if you want to know what those numbers correlate with, you know, on your workbench, 0 is on the ignition option, 0. If you go back to your config file and you look at ignition effect options, default 0 is just a standard ignition. If we went to 1, it would be a spark tip ignition. So watch. We want to keep the style option 0. We want the ignition option to be 1. Now let's ignite the saber. You should see a spark tip, just like that. Now let's go back and take the spark tip out. You can see that's a lot easier than how we were trying to do it in edit mode. But that's how you do that there. But you really need to look at your config for each blade, and you can see all the options you have. You know, for pre-on, for ignition effects, for power-up effects, retraction effects, cool-down effects, post-off effects, and then your off behaviors. You have all those things going on. So it's really cool that you can adjust all those things. But this first, you know, all these options here are what you're seeing when you're in the ProffieOS Workbench. You know, whichever style option, ignition time, and then ignition power up. You know, it's got 0, which it doesn't have an ignition power up programmed on it. And then you can change where your lockup position is at. Let's go back to blade 1. Blade 1 is the main blade on this saber. Blade 2 is the stock pixels, the stock connector. Blade 3 is the crystal chamber. Blade 4 is the first accent here in the back, and then blade 5 is the second. But there, you know, you can see there's all your other options and colors and everything that you can change. But you can have a lot of fun playing with this. And then the key thing is, when you're messing around on this workbench, let's say you've done something to mess your saber up, there's an easy way to revert back to the factory settings, and I'm going to show you that now. I'm going to go ahead and turn the saber off, and I'm going to take this blade out. And set the blade aside because we want to go ahead and remove the SD card. I'm going to disconnect the saber here. We're going to remove the SD card, and I'm going to put the SD card in the SD card reader, and we're going to pop this in, and I'm going to go to Windows Share, and we're going to go look at this SD card. So what's happening when you edit your saber in either edit mode or the ProffieOS Workbench is, initially when I wrote this SD card, you can see all the fonts on there. None of these files were on there, so this is what the saber is saving on the SD card to tell it what changes you've made, and this presets any is actually what on your SD card is telling the saber what to do. And each preset starts new preset. You can see it uses font father, track, it uses the throne wave, and then it talks about the styles for each of the 5 blades. And the name of this preset is father, variation is 0, and then next preset is Vader comment, and then you'll be able to see the preset that we added, which, after the font name Vader, you have new preset, and that's where you see font Maul, common, tracks is fates, wave, and then it shows all the options we have selected on the blades. These numbers are not well documented, what it's doing here, but let's say like you wanted to revert this saber back to where it was when your installer first sent it to you and you want to get rid of your changes, you would just delete all of these files. And if you delete all of those files, you're going to lose all of your edits that you've made on the saber. But it'll be back to where the saber was when your installer first installed the saber. You don't want to delete your config file. You just want to delete the cure state any, cure state temp, gesture any, gesture temp, global any, global temp, presets any, and presets temp. If you delete those files on your SD card and then reinsert your SD card, your saber is going to go back to the original state it was when the installer sent it. So basically, the edit mode and the ProffieOS Workbench are predominantly making changes in this presets any file. That's where the changes to your saber are happening, right there in a presets any file. And you can also pull your SD card out and watch what changes it's making, but there's all of our presets. And then if you look at the global any, you can see this saber was installed on February 4th, 2022. Clash threshold is set to 4. Volume is 1485. Dimming 16,384. That's all that's in global. Let's look at gestures. Probably won't be much in gestures. It just says what all my settings are at, and they're all pretty much what I set. And then cure state any. You can see I've adjusted the blade length to 127. Blade 2 length is 1, that's wrong. I have to go look at that in the mode here. Reconnect, USB, there's all our stuff. And I'm going to go into settings. Blade 2 length is 16, blade 1 is, so that's right. So this is our main blade, this is the stock connector, this is the crystal chamber, and then blade 4 and 5 are our 2 rotaries. So this one's 9, that one's 8, that's correct. So whatever was in that cure state any was wrong, but it's still showing it understands that that is 16 pixels, which is pretty easy to see because if I ignite the saber, all the pixels in the stock connector are lighting up. So it's probably just I don't know how to read that on the SD, but that's ProffieOS Workbench and edit mode. And you can play around with the saber, and if you make a mistake or you add something you didn't mean to add, you can always delete those files that I showed you on the SD card, and it reverts the saber. One thing that I ought to cover is, when you're editing these blades, number one, I would suggest you only stay in the first blade style, which is going to be your main blade, and stay away from the crystal chamber and the other blades if you have them. So, if you're going to mess around, I think you should only mess around in the main blade. And I guess I need to show you how to read the config. So on our Proffie config file, it's long. And, up here we have all these defines and blah, blah, blah. That's called the config top. And then after all the defines, we have config presets. And anytime you see like a font name like Father and then Common Tracks Throne Wave, that's the beginning of a preset. And just after your sound wave, that's going to be the wave associated with that font, you have your blade style. So this is blade style 1, and it's long. It goes all the way. It goes all the way down here. This is a lot of code. That's a lot of computer code, and it stops right there. That's the end of blade style 1. Now there are 5 blade styles on each preset on this lightsaber, because this lightsaber has 5 blades. And we know that because if we come up here, you can see number of blades is 5. So each preset has to have 5 blade styles. But the first blade style on my lightsabers is always going to be the main blade. So to read your options, on your style options, so on just the general style options for this saber, you have 5 style options in there: rotoscope, single color, sequels, rotoscope, single color, prequels, hyper responsive rotoscope, original trilogy, hyper responsive rotoscope prequels, hyper responsive rotoscope sequels. Now the default style that's on it is rotoscope, single color, original trilogy. That's the default. So on the main blade style, 0 is rotoscope original trilogy, and if we go here, you can see our style option is 0 on our main blade. And the fact that style option is 0 means that we're using rotoscope single color original trilogy. Now you can go to our preon options, and you can see the default 0 is disabled, so there are no preons. And when you open up our editor, you can see we'll scroll down to preon options. There you go, preon option 0, which means it's disabled. And then you get to ignition option, and then we'll show you what that looks like on the. So ignition effect options, default is 0, which is a standard ignition. 1 is spark tip, 2 is cycle up, 3 is glitch on, 4 is metal forge, 5 is lightning strike. So on all of these presets, this first blade is the main blade. And, I have several videos where you can learn how to read a preset, but I'm going to scroll down and get to the second preset, and I have to scroll through 5 of these blade styles. It's a lot of code. Alright, so this is the second preset on this saber, and you can see that this is a different blade style, but this is the first blade. I'm going to highlight all the stuff that you need to be reading on the first blade style. So this stuff that's right before the blade style, the number 1 blade style, these are all your options that you're seeing in the menu. You can see you got preon options, you've got ignition options, power-up options, retraction effect options, lockup effect, drag effect, melt effect, stab effect. Those are all your options that are built into each of these blade styles. You can see that this crossguard has 1,440 unique combinations possible utilizing all of these options and color change. So you know, but that's how you know, outside of getting into too much detail, that's how you know what these options are that you're seeing here in style option. Option 0 on the first preset is, you know, standard single original trilogy rotoscope. Ignition option 0 on this preset was going to be just a standard ignition. Now, if we go to Vader and we look at our ignition option, we see that it's using ignition option 1. And ignition option 1, when we look at that rotoscope blade style, let's go back up there and look at ignition option 1 is going to be a spark tip ignition. So Vader font uses a spark tip ignition, but Father doesn't. That's how all that works. And you can see there's different, all the color options and things you're able to adjust here. You can certainly have a lot of fun and make some customizations to your saber. Like if you don't like what color the blast is on this first preset on Vader, you can change that. Your clash color, your lockup color, all that can be changed right here, right in the ProffieOS Workbench. So let's get back on edit mode. All right, we're back from Web USB land on the computer, and right now we're on the first preset, which is Kyberphonics Father. We're going to go to the second preset, which is Vader, Rogue One Vader. You can see it's still Rogue One Vader. We're going to go to the third preset. It's Darth Maul. Now, I don't like that ignition time because that's not quick enough for Maul. So let's go into edit mode and let's change that ignition time. Edit mode.
Edit mode. Edit style. Edit color. Edit style. Select blade. 1.
Selecting that.
Select option. Select style. Edit style settings.
Edit style settings, pressing power.
Select option. Style options. Ignition options.
Ignition options.
Ignition time.
Ignition time is what we want to adjust. Seems like it's getting slower. Let's go the other way. You can see it's much easier to do this on the ProffieOS Workbench. It's a lot easier to adjust these ignition times on the ProffieOS Workbench, but you see we still have a spark tip ignition on that, and Darth Maul didn't have a spark tip ignition, so let's go and get rid of that.
Edit mode. Edit style. Edit color. Edit style.
Select
blade. 1. Select option. Select style. Edit style settings.
Edit style settings, select that.
Select option. Style options. Ignition options.
Ignition options, select.
Option 1. Option 2. Option 3. Option 2. Option 1. Option 0.
I'm going to select that.
Save. Select option. Cancel. Style menu. Cancel. Select blade. Cancel. Main menu. Exit.
So now we're out of edit mode, and now we no longer have spark tip ignition, which is more how Darth Maul should be. So as you can see, you can edit it on the Saber, but it sure is a lot easier editing on ProffieOS Workbench. And the cool thing is you can have it either way. To me, if I'm adjusting the style settings or ignition times or my ignition options, I'm going to do that on the ProffieOS Workbench. It's just a lot easier to me. And you can still ignite your saber and see the results. But if you're going to do some minor changes, or if you're going to, copy preset, you can do that in edit mode. But edit mode is fairly intuitive. You just have to remember that the power button is a select and the auxiliary is the run home to mama. I made a mistake, back out of this. And it'll revert, and that also keep clicking aux, and that'll get you out of the edit mode altogether. But once you're in edit mode, you're going to be selecting your options, and then you select power, and then you have to go through submenus. The submenus within edit mode are pretty extensive, and all I will say is that it just takes a lot of experimenting. I mean, I've kind of remembered where they're all at and what functions are where. It's just going to take some playing. The bottom line is you have to remember you got to twist the hilt to scroll through the functions, and you can only twist the hilt like one click at a time, like 4 or 5 degrees at a time. Anything more than that can kind of send edit mode through a loop. And when you're selecting something, it's power to confirm it's turned right, and then you have to press power again to back out of whatever. It's the auxiliary button. This is going to work for all of my 2-button saber installs. This video just is a brief intro to edit mode. You can read a lot more about edit mode, and I'll share a link on the doobly-doo down below in the full expanded video description. And, hopefully y'all enjoy using edit mode and WebUSB. WebUSB is a lot more user-friendly, but edit mode's good when you're in a pinch at a troop. But if you're at home and you're at your computer, I would certainly say WebUSB is the more efficient, simpler way of doing business when you're editing your sabers. May the force be with you, or the dark side as it were. Thank you everybody for watching, as usual. I really appreciate y'all tuning in on my channel. And as always,